Hey guys, Tim here, Big Dog Forge. Welcome back to the shop. It's good to see you again. Today, Damascus for Centerline Forge for a hammer. I wanted to hit on a couple of things first. One, we just hit 20,000 subscribers today, a little over that now, and I wanted to say thanks to everybody. We'll be doing a giveaway video for that 20,000 subscribers coming up soon, but it's going to be a few days. So wait for that one. It should be fun. Today we're going to do the first of two billets for James, and we'll make the second billet a separate video. So stick with me, guys. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll talk to you on the other end. All right, guys, stick with me. Should be fun. All right, guys, this is some 1.5" round. It's supposedly crane cable. I got it from the cable manufacturer guy, and he tells me it's enhanced, enriched, something. It's higher carbon. Anyway, we're going to get this thing welded up, cut her off, get her into the forge so we can start forge welding this thing together. This is going to be the main body of our hammer. So I do it a little bit differently than most. A lot of folks will heat it up like this, get some flux on it. I'm just burning the factory oil, grease, that kind of stuff off of it. I tap it on the ground like this to open up all the strands, and I get some flux inside of it before I do anything. I've got both ends welded together, so those strands will stay together pretty well. And I tap it back together while it's still hot, get that flux all coated on the inside. And then when I take it to the power hammer, I forge it round, going with the strands. And I'll do that 2 or 3 times, good and hot. And what that does is it collapses those strands in that circular motion. If you hammer it flat, the strands tend to spread out on the side and you lose a few. They don't get welded in, and then you have to deal with that. And if you forge it round like that, you can pretty much forge it into a bar. Now I've flattened it on a couple of sides, and I'm taking a page out of HOJ Forge's book and using a hatchet here. And what I'm going to do is cut this in a couple of places on opposite sides, and we're going to do a bifold weld on this thing. If you're not sure what that is, you'll see it here in a second. Get it good and hot, scrub it up, and we're going to fold this back and forth on itself, sort of like an accordion. There we go. And that'll give us 2 welds at one time. Saves a little time. And into the forge, all fluxed up under the power hammer. Now I left about 1 inch sticking out there, and it was a little more than I wanted to, but I wanted to keep that weld at the end away from the body of this thing, that where I welded the strands together and the little handle on. But we're going to sort of forge that out a little bit here, and we're going to save as much of that as we can. We'll upset it back into the bar a little bit later. So we're just kind of getting this guy into shape here a little bit. And need to keep the heat up here a little. And we get our kiss block in there. Get this thing sized. Yeah, we need more heat first. Alright, we cut the end of that thing off. And you can see our little nub sticking up there. We're trying to save as much material as we can. And we're upsetting it back into that bar with a press here. Just a little easier. It's too tall for the power hammer. And this seems to be doing a pretty good job. And we need to upset this thing down to about 3.5 inches long and end up with something that's 1 5/8 inches square. We're just going to do a little cleanup here by hand. Now that we got it upset down into its shape. Trying to knock some of the high corners down. There we go. And we'll use scrappy to power hammer here to kind of level things off and even it out, plenish it a little bit, get it nice and square before we move on to our next step. And we'll let that anneal there a little bit. before we take it to the grinder, we're going to clean the scale off of here so we can get it in some ferric chloride and take a peek at it. Now this is a leaf spring, obviously, and we're going to cut some plates, one for either end, so we can weld on some hard steel faces. I'm not sure how that cable would hold up as a hammer. I'm sure it would do fine. I'm sure it's equal to, if not better than, say a 1045, but we need a little more length in this bar, and this is something I've not done before. I've not welded hard steel faces to the end of a cable, so I don't even know how it's going to work, or if it will work. I'm sure it will. I hope it will. Anyway, all right, we're going to clean these ends of this bar up and make them as flat as we can, since we're going to be adding it's about 3/16 of an inch to either end of it. We can afford to take a little bit off the end of the bar here and mill that down nice and flat, give ourselves a real nice welding surface. And we did that to both ends of the bar. And we've got our hard steel faces, and we're just going to clean the rust off of them so we can get these guys tack welded to the ends of this. There we go. And we'll get this thing into the forge, get it up to welding temperature, and do our initial weld under the power hammer. Seems to do a pretty good job, and it'll give it a little bit of insurance that it's got a good weld going there. And when we're done doing this, we'll continue this welding a little bit by hand so we can dress the edges down and try to get rid of any weld lines around the top and the bottom. Pretty much keeping this at welding temperature the whole time. Give her a good scrub up, get her back into the forge, and then we're going to go back into the power hammer. And we didn't get too much fish lipping or anything, you know, extruding at the ends too much, because we kept it nice and hot. But this will square it off for us real nice. And we're gonna go ahead and quench this thing. Now this is warm oil, and the reason I'm doing this is I want to see how hard it gets, and I want to make sure that these faces aren't going to pop off here under a quench, because that can happen if you don't have a good strong weld, or if you quench it too quickly, say in water. We don't want to do that, James. All right, we sanded off some of that scale. We're going to get it in some ferric chloride, see if we can see any kind of a pattern coming out in this thing. There you go. That's 3 stacks of twisted cable in a Damascus billet for a hammer with some hard steel faces on the end. And I'm really surprised those faces on either end didn't etch as dark as most of the cable did. All right, guys, there you go. It's a billet for James at County Line Forge, and he's going to build a hammer out of this thing. It's about 2.7 pounds and 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches by just about 3.5 inches long. I think we're a little short of what he required there, but if it's a little short of 2.5 pounds, that's quite all right. Anyway, so there you go, James. It'll be in the mail and off to you soon, and we're going to do a second billet and send it to you as well. I've got something special in mind. Couldn't decide which one, so we're going to do both. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate all the subscribers. Thank you to the Patreon folks, and if you want to show some love to the little channel, you can head on over there and check us out as well. So like, share, subscribe. Really appreciate it, guys, and we'll see you next time around. All right, guys. Thanks again. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.